So hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. A couple weeks ago, FIXDRY reached out to me and asked me if I would like to do a review and take a look at one of the products they offer, and that is the NT1 dual spool filament dryer. Now, truthfully, I don't have a ton of need for filament dryers for the majority of the stuff I print. I'm printing with PLA. It can absorb moisture over time, but I go through it so fast I don't have a big issue with it. But on occasion, we have a project where we just have to have a filament dryer. And for me, that was the drive tires for my R2-D2 over there. They were extremely hard to print. They're a soft rubber. You can see how flexible they are. And for this, I tried TPU initially, and it was still a little bit too hard and couldn't get traction on hard surfaces, so I ended up going with a TPE. So in the case of printing these tires off for my R2-D2, I ran it through my Bamboo Labs X1 Carbon directly out of my filament dryer, and that was the only way I could get it to print. So there could be a need for a filament dryer somewhere in your toolbox. So that being said, let's talk about this dryer that was sent over from FIXDRY. They did send me this dryer free of charge, but this is going to be an open, honest review. I'm going to talk about some of the things I really like about this dryer, and then I'm going to talk about some of the things that I don't really care for so much about this dryer. So let's go ahead and get started. We'll take a look at how this dryer operates. So the first thing we need to talk about is operation of the unit. It's a very simple unit to operate. It has an on-off button. Has a digital display. It shows the temperature in Celsius, it shows the humidity inside the unit, and then the time that you have programmed in. Very simple to change. You have a settings menu. It'll cycle through the temperature. You can raise it up and down to get the correct temperature you want. Same thing with the time. You can skip through the time. You can hold it if you want to go ahead and go up to 48 hours depending on how long you want to dry your filament for. And that's really it. It's a pretty simple unit. Okay, we could talk about specifications and talk about this dryer all day long, but if you're anything like me, I want to see how it works. Let's see how it actually performs in some real world testing. So I'm going to hook it up to my printer. I'm going to print out one of these R2-D2 rubber tires and see how it performs. Now, for the purpose of comparison, I ran the filament through the back of the Bamboo Labs. I just put it on a roller. This was the filament that was left in my garage. It was very hydrated. So we'll see how that performs. Then we're going to run it through the dryer for 4 hours, run it out of the dryer into the Bamboo, and compare that. So here's the comparison. This is the dried filament running out of the filament dryer into the back of the Bamboo. We're going to run this print and we'll be able to compare the two prints at the end and see what the difference is. So let's go ahead and take a look at how that print came out both before and after drying the filament. I left the spool of filament out in my garage. It was very humid, middle of July. I completely forgot it was out there, and this is what I ended up with. The filament was very hydrated, and pretty much the print is unusable. There's layer line separation. It didn't print in certain spots, terrible adhesion. So that's the importance of keeping filament stored properly, and really this is on me. So here's the same print, same settings, with the filament after I ran it through the FIXDRY NT1. And you could see it's much better. So did the dryer work? Absolutely 100%. I mean, this print to me looks a little bit better than the first print with the new roll of filament, which goes to show that it's important if you're using materials such as TPEs or nylons that you really should be drying them prior to using them all the time, and also running them out of the dryer if at all possible. So there we go. The dryer performed great, as I expected. I mean, let's face it, it's a heating element with a fan to circulate the air to dry the filament. Really a relatively basic idea. Works very well. The real question is, why would I buy the FIXDRY versus some of the other offerings out there on the market? And we're going to go through that now. So I really want to go through and talk about some of the pros and cons of the unit. And I have to say, I was pleasantly surprised. The unit performed very well. The pros definitely outweigh the cons. So the first thing I'm going to talk about is inside the unit are these rollers. And I really like how they have these rollers designed. They have 4 rollers to where you could put 2 spools of filament, one on each side, or if you had like a 3 kilogram roll, or in my case with the TP, a wider spool that wouldn't fit in a standard spool holder, you could span it across the rollers and it still allows you to use the dryer. I do really like that feature. The other thing I like about the rollers is that they're not too tight and they're not too loose. And this is important. If the rollers are too tight, of course, we know our printer's extruder is going to have problems pulling the filament off the spool. But also if they're too loose, I've had a problem in the past to where I was putting a spool of filament and I was routing it out of my dryer. I pulled too hard, that spool kind of would free spin and it tangled my filament. And that happened to me once in the past. So the fact that there's a little bit of tension on these rollers, I really like that. Another thing I really like about this unit is the fact that this heat deflector is removable. And I like that because if you were running like a nylon type filaments, you wanted to get a little bit more direct heat on it while you were in the process of printing, you could take this out. Also, of course, that deflector's there so you can just set filament in there and it does keep the air circulating nice and even and will not damage your spools. So we definitely have to talk about the heater block. It has a 110 watt PTC heating block and this thing gets really warm. So if we spin the unit around, it has an internal temperature sensor. I really like that. It's not relying on algorithm to control the temperature. It actually has a sensor in there. I also reached out to the manufacturer and asked them about desiccant. Every one of my other dryers in the owner's manual talks about using desiccant. And when I reached out to FIXDRY, they said this unit does not require desiccant. So to me, that's a win. I don't have to worry about digging up bags of desiccant to put them in my dryer. So I have to say, as small of an item as this may seem, one of the things I really love that FIXDRY did was put an actual plug on the unit. Put the power adapter inside the unit. To me, this is huge because if you are anything like me, you probably got a box of these laying around and I don't remember where they go. We put something away, we might put it in storage, or we might not use it that often, and it's inevitable we lose one of these and end up having to buy a universal one for like 20, 30 bucks. So the fact that FIXDRY just put a plug on it, I am very happy about that. All my other dryers have some type of power adapter. The other problem is it takes up the whole outlet when you plug it in. This is a real pain, so you're always forced to use some type of power strip or multi-power port. FIXDRY, good job. So by far, my favorite thing about this unit, it kind of really did blow me away, and FIXDRY, you guys knocked it out of the park with this one. Where the PTFE tube exit, and they give you 10 spots on this hood where it exits, it hooked up almost perfectly to my X1 Carbon, which happens to be one of the most popular printers on the market. I could have literally plugged it directly into the coupling on the PTFE tube in the back of the Bamboo Labs. Now, that would be great for people running nylon, but unfortunately there is no access into this if I was to connect it directly to my Bamboo. Now, if you go over to FIXDRY's website, there is a video where a gentleman had put an access panel in the side of it. It's a really good idea and probably a modification I'll be doing in the future. Okay, well, we have to talk about some of the cons, and there really wasn't a lot of them. I kind of talked about the first one. It really isn't a con, but it's something that I wish FIXDRY would have done, and that was put an access panel somewhere in this top that you can get in there and feed filament to your printer. So moving on, one of the other things I wish FIXDRY would have done a little bit different, and this is something I'm seeing more and more with products, is their manuals. Everybody's getting a little bit light on the information in the manual, and I wish they would just supply a little bit more information in here and not make you have to hunt around for it online. So if there was just one thing I wish FIXDRY would do different, I love the machine, it works great, but that is include your times and temperatures stenciled on the side of the machine. Put a 50-cent sticker in the box that we could stick on the machine, because I promise I'm going to lose this book at some point in time. Now, I know it's not a real big thing, but ultimately that's the kind of thing that I think the consumers are really looking for. So to wrap things up, ultimately the FIXDRY NT1, it's a good looking unit. Simple to operate, works very well, includes some features that some of the other filament dryers don't have. It's a dual spool dryer for just under $80, so you're looking at $79 plus 10% off with the discount code down in the description. It really is a good value. So if you are in the market for a filament dryer, jump on over to FIXDRY, see what they offer. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I hope you got to learn something today. I know I did. If you did, please like and subscribe, and remember, just have fun.